Thank you very much. Let me say how glad I am this very early afternoon. And let me say how glad I am to meet my sister physically for the first time. We've been in communication for so long that I feel that we have been together for a long period. But believe me, this is the very first time that we are meeting physically, and I'm humbled and gladdened at once. You know, many things have and will continue to be said. I listened to my brother Lucas, and Lucas will have had the advantage of knowing for a long time. I've listened to your presentation on Wakanda, and I remember telling him that one of the problems we have in Africa is that when one comes up with an initiative, we want to start yet another one. And we must not do that if we are going forward. We must embrace a good idea and energize that idea, notwithstanding the source of that idea. And the beauty of this assembly is that we are now wedded to the realization that we have spoken for too long. That does not mean that we will stop speaking, we will. But as my good friend and sister says many times, the mind is where the battles must be fought and won. You know, in the last few days, as I've traveled across the United States of America and allowed my mind to wrap itself around the efforts that have been made by persons of African origin over the years, many things come to my mind. The whole idea that Africa can only regain her lost glory through investment is one that has been recognized times without number. Many of you who are here in the diaspora will remember the very early efforts of Jamaica's Marcus Garvey. When he came up with his project, he recognized that the only way in which we are going to be recognized is to do things that change people's lives. Today, the Chinese are gaining recognition throughout the world, not just because of what they say, but because of what they do. This morning, as we entered this room, and as we registered our presence in this room, we were given little notebooks, which are now resident on your tables. If you turn the back of your notebooks, you will note that they are made in Guangzhou in China. The Chinese don't have to announce their presence, they are here by dint of that little notebook. And that is what I hear saying today, that Africa must do things that allow her to be recognized without her saying so. A mango tree can say that it is an orange, but that does not make it an orange tree. It is by doing things that we will change. And talking about the mind, it is Malcolm X who once said that if you've been made to come through the back door for too long, even where there is no back door, you'll create one. And I think many times we find ourselves in a situation where there is a front door, but we are not willing or ready to go through the front door. We want to create a back door for ourselves. The time has come that we must stop it. This morning, I received a footage which is doing the rounds. It is a conversation that Brother Louis Farrakhan had in Malawi in 1998. And he was telling the Malawians that we are tired of being beggars around the world. The time has come that we must do something. This is what Sister Arikana is telling us through the Wakanda city. This is what Shuri is telling us. This is what Brother Lucas is telling us, that we have talked for too long. And those of you who are here and those of you who are listening through technology, there are many things that are happening in Africa. It is easy to get tired. It is easy to be negative. It is easy to relapse into depression. It is easy to embrace do-nothingism. But ask yourself what that will do to this generation and generations yet to be born. You know, fortune favors the vigilant. Throughout history, the Igbo in Nigeria have a saying, made famous by their son Chinua Achebe, when he says that when you see a frog in daylight, you know that something is after its time. Today, many Africans are coming out, and the question that some are asking is, what is after their life? There are many things that are after our lives. Poverty is running to catch us and to subdue us. And we know the pain of poverty. Wars are running after our lives. So that today, if you look at the indices of human development, life expectancy is going down. Maternal mortality is on the rise. Infant mortality is on the rise. Our young men and women are relapsing into depression. They are cannon fodder for those who are recruiting them to get into organizations whose only agenda is to destabilize the continent. And you see it across the continent. If you don't see it in Nigeria, you see it in Mozambique. If you don't see it in Mozambique, you see it in Ethiopia. And the question that we must ask is, what can we do about it? Impossible is a word that we are quick to embrace, but is one that belongs to the dictionary of fools and cowards. We must not say that things are impossible. I remember in 1987 when a young man seized political power in Burkina Faso, Thomas Sankara. He said, in order to change the world, you must do things that others will think are mad. This is the point in time at which we must be mad, but mad in an organized way. As I listen to my good brother Lucas, I'm quite certain that many have questioned your sanity. When you are making a presentation about Wakanda City, they are saying, why are you thinking like this? I am urging you, continue being insane. Because it is only through insanity of that kind that we are going to change the continent of Africa. I look forward to the day in Ghana when with Sister Arikana we shall be present there and cut the sword so that we may lay the foundation stone for a city which will become a pilgrimage site for our men and women who are in the diaspora and for others who are living within the mother continent. It can be done and it must be done. So the time is now. The time is now for us to rise up and do the things that we must. The time is ripe for us who are in the mother continent to create an environment where those of you who are in the diaspora can come home. Whether you are in the United States of America, whether you are in Europe or Latin America or in Asia, we must create an environment where you can come in and support our efforts. It can be done. Sister Arikana talked about the Jews. Ask yourselves, if you read history, when these Jews were dispersed over 2,000 years ago, then in 1948, they created a nation. There are just a few of them. But wherever you go in the world, you hear this is a Jewish establishment. I'm told that there is an unwritten code that money must circulate within amongst them several times over before it goes out. Look at us. The relationship between ourselves and money is so flirtatious that when it enters our pocket, is in the business of getting out. We must stop that. We must create an environment where when money gets into our pocket, it finds a comfortable residence which accommodates it, which allows it to germinate and to grow. Until the day that we do that, we are going to be the scoundrels of this world. And we cannot afford that luxury. You know, when statisticians do what they do best, and they tell us that there are 400 million of people of African origin in the diaspora, I ask myself what it is that they can do, and I hear it being said that if only 1 million of them were to decide to give and give consistently, then we could move mountains. But you know, we must exorcise certain ghosts which are residents in our hearts and minds. The ghosts of suspicion, the ghosts of doubt, the ghosts of low self-esteem. These ghosts are so dominant in our hearts and minds that whenever we want to move in the right direction, they tell us, please don't move in that direction. It was never meant for you. Until we exercise those ghosts, we are not going anywhere. So you are here, there is a sense in which you are in the process of exorcising those ghosts by agreeing to sit here and to listen to investment and ideas that can propagate the African agenda in a positive way. You are beginning to move in the right direction. You know, Africa has been in the business of saying beautiful things. If you permit me to go down a little into history. I don't want to go too back into history. I just want to go back to 1960. And I hear Africans of that day sitting in Casablanca, Morocco, and say, these are our enemies as people who have been enslaved, as people who have been colonized, as people who are laboring under neo-colonialism. These are our enemies, that one of them is ignorance, and that we must fight ignorance. That the other enemy is poverty, and that we must fight this enemy, and that the other one is disease. I hear them in 1961 in Casablanca, Morocco. And they don't stop there. I hear them in 1962 in Monrovia in Liberia saying the same thing. But I hear them more eloquently in 1963 on the 24th and 25th days in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, say that if we are to fight these enemies effectively, we must be united, because if we are not united, we are too fragmented that we will not make an impact. And they don't stop there. In 1964 in Cairo, they repeat the same thing. They're in the business of repeating. But they don't stop there. They don't stop there. They create the Organization of African Unity, but the Organization of African Unity does nothing apart from being a jamboree of African dictators which meets and spews out speeches which are as follows. They are useless. And they don't stop there. They meet again in 1975 in Lomé, Togo. And again in 1971 in Cotonou, saying the same thing. They meet again in Lagos in 1980 and come up with the Lagos Plan of Action and say, Africa must trade with herself. I hear them. And they don't stop there. They do nothing between 1980 and they meet again in 2013. And they come up with Africa Agenda 2063. We are now in the second decade of the 21st century, which means we have lost 20 years. And they meet again, and on the first day of January this year, they come up with Africa Continental Free Trade Area, and they make the following promises. We are going to break down the tariff and anti-tariff barriers. We are going to allow Africans to move across the continent without the requirement of visas. We are going to allow labor to move. We are going to ensure that our products have value addition. They are telling us. If we don't do anything about it, they'll tell us another story in the year 2063. And you and me will be architects. So the time is now to make real those promises. We must no longer and can no longer afford the luxury of waiting for it to be done by others. We must make our contribution. And it is our contribution that will make things change. And that is how I understand Lucas. That is how I understand Dr. Arikana when she came up with the idea of Wakanda. And I can imagine that day. I was not there, but I can only imagine that day when others were watching this Hollywood movie called Wakanda and were agitated about the sci-fi of it. You are agitated about the reality of it. And the reality of it is that we can only give meaning beyond the Polaroid by going into the hard ground and describing the Cape Coast for what it is, a dungeon. Describing Elmina for what it is, a dungeon. And then changing that through alchemy so that we have something that can become a pilgrimage. That is how I understand Wakanda City. And let me tell you, I have no doubt in my mind that there is no shortage of individuals who are saying, let us see, because Africans are also fond of saying that, we have seen these many times. It too shall fail. We are in the business of saying that doomsday scenarios. But let us tell them here and now that it shall not fail. Let us take a solemn vow here that it shall not fail. And I want us, even in an assembly such as this, even when we meet for a few minutes, in order to demonstrate that it shall not fail, even in meetings such as this, to the extent that is useful, there is no sorrow in your pockets if you produce even $100, even in an assembly such as this. Because a long journey starts with baby steps. It is those baby steps that mature, so that even here, after we have consumed these beverages, let them give us the energy to give, that we may begin this journey, because when we do with our hearts what is resident there, so that we speak not the language of the lips, but the language of the heart, Africa shall not be the same again. And we must be able to go around in different parts of the continent of Africa. Many times we'll feel lonely. But is it not in solitude that the greatest ideas are birthed? Is it not in solitude that we change the world dramatically? Is it not in solitude that the purity of our thoughts is revealed? And when we have those pure thoughts, And Brother Shuri, it gladdens me to know that there are 65 organizations that are working under the aegis of the larger organization. I have no problem with organizations existing, no. Those are different permutations of ideas as long as we agree that the agenda is one and that the goal is one. Let us have all these rivers, but because I've always said this and I repeat it again, the glory of the ocean lies in the many rivers that flow into her. The only thing that we must do is that we must make sure that these rivers are flowing in the right direction. Let us not have rivers that are trying to flow upstream. The laws of gravity will not allow you to do that. All rivers must flow downstream into the ocean. And the ocean that we have now is to begin to invest in the continent of Africa. And as I conclude, let us not be worried. Sometimes we get worried. Sometimes we are in a hurry. We are in a hurry because we think the things will not happen in my lifetime. They will not happen in your lifetime. Because what is your lifetime at the very best? If you live to 120 years, then you are the latter-day Methuselah. But there is no danger of you living to those ages, and there is no reason why you should. But you can immortalize yourself. That is the beauty of it. And how do you immortalize yourself? By contributing to processes that will live beyond you, beyond your children and children's children. So let us begin now. Let us begin now, and I can't wait for the month of December. If I was in the business of stopping the sun and causing it to move like Joshua did in the Bible, I would bring the month of December now. But the month of December is now 5 months away, and I hope that we will be present there. And the beauty is that today, even if you are not present physically, you can be present virtually. And the beauty of it is that you can be present through your bank account. This is the beauty of it. And the beauty of money is that money does not require a visa. That is how I love money. Oh, it doesn't require a visa. It knows no immigration. It moves without let and hindrance. That is what we need, because if you do that, it will get something. So let us utilize this instrument that we have, which requires no visa, which requires no immigration, which requires no passport, but which changes lives and changes things in a dramatic way. Ladies and gentlemen, it can be done, it must be done, and it is you and me who must do it. Let us play our part. God bless.